Welcome to the top.
Yay!
We're just putting the final touches on our show. Hopefully
Where's my grease paint? Where's the keg light over there? No, that's
I need this chapstick and this lamp
and this paddle ball game.
That's all I need.
That's all I need is this chair.
This episode of The Topic is the Jerk is brought to you by
or the jerks are talking trash.
Yes, well, that's always the case.
Somehow.
That too.
All right. Hey, good news, everyone. The pod directive is finally back. They were supposed to like last summer. And Investigates with Gates McFadden is back.
Excellent.
So 2 Star Trek podcasts are back for another season. Having fun listening to those.
And we never close, so we're always here with another
That's
season.
right. We are like old faithful. Full of
right above our podcast is a little sign that says 24 hours went eat.
Yeah.
that was one of the things I did on the cruise was I did my whiteboard on the door and asked a question of the day. I said 9244 wants to know. And I said, name a Star Trek podcast. And of course, I had to salt the pot with a few, including ours.
Nobody said the topic is Trek. Oh.
I did. So it looked like someone said it.
Right. Well, I did give away we have those little magnets that we made for Dragon Con. I still had kind of a stack of them. I gave Chuck a few, and every time I rode the elevator, I'd put one over the buttons.
And then it was gone.
And then it was gone.
And then
I had about
the back of Doug Jones's back.
Right.
Yeah. So something we're saying is one of the maintenance people has a whole stack of.
Yeah. He's like, who the hell? Oh, it's a magnet.
Again?
I show up during the 80s cruise. I'm out of here.
Yeah. I did put some on my door. I had about 3 or 4 on the door, and I noticed they were gone, except for like one. I was
That's because someone was stealing things from the doors.
Then I started going, yeah, I know. I started thinking, maybe I should have put our address on there. Like HTTPS.
Yeah,
or say the topic is Trek podcast.
Podcast, yes.
Next time. Those were version 1. We got rid of them. Good.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. All right. Well, we'll talk more about magnets at a different date, but I think if we're set to go, we should.
We are set to go.
Let's fly then.
Okay. Oh, I like that. Okay.
Engage.
Hitting record. Yeah, that's my job. Okay.
Yeah.
I was ready to play the music. I'm going, no, there's something that happens before the music. We take a few weeks off and I got to be retrained. All right. Recording audio in 3, 2.
This is The Topic is Trek, episode 133 for Friday, March 10th, 2023. Coming up in this episode, Discovery is coming back in 2024. But brace for impact of price hikes on Paramount Plus, and we venture into the cosmic cloud of Picard. All that and more right now on The Topic is Trek. Last call at the disco. Welcome to The Topic is Trek, the podcast that runs on impulse power. Join us for a journey where no show has gone before. If it has to do with Star Trek, there's a good chance we'll talk about it sooner or later, because on this show, the topic is Trek. Engage already. I should make one of those Balak puppets and just have it there when that segment is on. Well, hello, everyone.
Don't tempt me.
I'm Clinton, one of your Topic is Trek co-hosts. And of course, to be a co-host, I have to have other hosts with me. So beaming in to join me from parts unknown with a hip new catchphrase. Ooh, it's a long beam.
He needs time to think about this one.
I got to breathe again. Take us out. Take us out.
That's it. That's the or is that no?
You're gonna get taken out with this.
Take us out.
And also apparently in the transporter control is Mr. Chuck Tomasi.
Aye, Captain. Copy that. Ready steady where she goes. Something, blah, blah,
Blah,
blah.
blah, blah.
Yeah,
blah,
close,
blah.
close enough. Close enough. Well, we've got a lot to talk about on this episode of the show. We've got some subspace chatter news for you. We've got a report from Chuck and Craig on Star Trek The Cruise 6. Then we're going to talk about the most recent three episodes of Star Trek Picard. And we will wrap things up with an intriguing warp speed roundtable question.
Whew, we're going to have to make this a weekly podcast sooner or later.
Indeed.
Oh,
Right off your Thursday nights from now on, guys.
yeah.
Well, what will make things go very smoothly is to get things started. Of course, I'm going to make sure we're all thumbs up from Mr. Charlie X. Charlie, are we all set to go with subspace chatter?
Charlie's at the con.
You don't need all that subspace chatter.
And that's a definitely go. So you're first up, Chuck.
Well, earlier this month, Paramount Plus announced that Star Trek Discovery's upcoming 5th season will be its last.
Ooh.
The series not only reignited Trek on the small screen, but it also helped launch Paramount's streaming service, then known as CBS All Access, way back in 2017.
Wow.
Like we need to start.
Wow.
Something.
That seems like it's so far away.
It was pre-pandemic. Little did we know the adventures to come on Star Trek.
In 2020, the Burns showed up.
Yes,
Right,
well.
burn. Well, according to Disco regular Doug Jones, the cast was given word at the end of the journey. They gave him to that in a Zoom call. Now, he was grateful of being able to be together with his fellow actors when the announcement was made, even if it was just a virtual gathering. Paramount Plus also announced that the final season will now debut in early 2024, which is much later than earlier anticipated.
And we're going to continue on this story. So, Craig, you've got more on this?
I do. And no
Don't
specific
say
reason.
Craig and moron in the same sentence, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because other people use it plenty. So no specific reason for the timing of the change was given. However, we do know that Discovery cast and crew got a production extension to film a proper conclusion to the series, which is a welcomed addition. They will also be filming scenes that will help lead to the finale episode. Details of the ending are being kept secret, but one person with some knowledge of the story is Jonathan Frakes. Go figure, right? Also, we don't know if Frakes is involved with the finale. I'm sure he is. He did describe the plan as stunning, adding, excuse me, I'm getting choked up here, adding that it's a very satisfying ending.
Are they going to do another Enterprise ending?
He said satisfying ending.
Yeah.
No. Another possible reason, yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, please continue.
Okay, another slam on Enterprise. Another possible reason for the delay is the fact that Paramount will be planning to send the show off in style with events planned in certain key markets throughout the year leading up to the final season's release. Further details will be released at a later date. A statement from executive producers and co-showrunners Alex Kurtzman and Michelle Paradise read in part, quote, "We couldn't be prouder of everything Discovery has contributed to its legacy, particularly with representation. If just one person sees themselves or the possibilities for their future in a new way because of Discovery, then we think we'd have made Gene Roddenberry very proud."
And as far as the topic of Trek is concerned, we know that Discovery has its ups and downs, but we readily acknowledge that if Disco had failed, the chances of us ever having gotten Short Treks, Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy, Strange New Worlds, and whatever else is to follow would have been greatly diminished. This fact alone affords Discovery special honors in the history of Trek.
That's right. And according to Paramount Plus, season 5 of Discovery, we will find the crew uncovering a mystery that sends them on an epic adventure across the galaxy. They have to find an ancient power whose very existence has been hidden for centuries. And there are others on the hunt as well, dangerous foes who are desperate to claim the prize for themselves. Khan! No, not Khan.
No.
Number. Yeah, Shakari. Yeah, so we look for it in 2024.
All right. Now put on your corporate hats because we're going to delve a bit into some news from Paramount Plus. During a recent earnings call, Paramount Global CEO Bob Bakish announced that the company plans to raise prices for Paramount Plus subscriptions when it rebrands as Paramount Plus. Exactly, Eric's. It's going to rebrand as Paramount Plus with Showtime. A monthly ad-free subscription will increase from $9.99 to $11.99 and will include Showtime. I know, and will include Showtime content at no additional charge. The ad-supported plan will go from $4.99 to $5.99. No word on how this will affect customers who have the legacy CBS All Access $5.99 ad-supported tier with local channel access, which could signal that that tier will be phased out. We'll have to see. The announcement comes after other Hollywood giants have also raised their monthly subscription fees. Industry watchers note that there is an increasing shift away from subscriber growth in streaming, with attention now focused on profitability.
Of
What?
course it is.
Who would have thought? That means streaming services have moved into a price raising mode.
Mm-hmm.
Not a pleasant mode for those of us who have these things. The price changes will coincide with the formal launch of the Paramount Plus with Showtime platform in the third quarter of 2023. Interestingly enough, while speaking on the call, CEO Bakish spoke to a revised strategy for the Showtime service, stating the plan is to, quote, efficiently manage the company's content spending going forward by leaning into franchises, which drive the majority of engagement on Showtime. Quote, the higher level of consumer awareness and built-in fan bases associated with this IP drive strong subscriber acquisition volume, lower acquisition costs, lower churn, and extend LTVs, which is loan to value ratios. It's a finance thing. Bakish concluded, and while we will, of course, continue to take selective swings on new IPs, there's no question that franchises have a powerful advantage. Now, how will this translate to what happens to Star Trek, which is part of the core Paramount Plus brand? Well, that's yet to be seen. Paramount expects 2023 to be its peak investment year for streaming, with 2024 returning to positive free cash flow and total company earnings growth. Going into 2024, Paramount is said to expect reductions in the growth rate of headcounts. So that means people,
Layoffs, yeah.
production, and technology expenses after a full year of integration with Showtime and Paramount Plus.
I hear they're going to merge with the Yellowstone brand and bring back Spectre of the Gun.
That would not be out of line. I think that would totally work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that will be our third name change. So it's CBS All Access, then Paramount Plus, and that's going to be Paramount Plus with Showtime.
Well,
Another mountain.
Showtime at the end. It's Paramount Plus Showtime. Works for me.
I was going to say plus and is kind of redundant.
Yeah.
With is just okay.
It's another mountain to climb.
Indeed.
Oh, I see what you did there. You didn't even intend to do that.
Right. I did.
All right. Now we're going to go into space for Chuck's next story.
An international team of space scientists have discovered that the detection of the Vulcan homeworld was made. I need reverb for this one. In error.
Wait a minute. You just said Vulcan scientists and error in the same sentence.
You
can't
are
do that.
in error.
I was waiting to use that Nomad clip. Okay, according to the series Enterprise, which we all just mentioned in love and faith.
Nothing but love.
Faith of the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, according to Enterprise, Vulcan orbits a star called 40 Eridani A. That star and its fictional planet were based on a real star, 40 Eridani A. And in 2018, an exoplanet was discovered orbiting the star and was named 40 Eri B. Though many Star Trek fans no doubt wanted it to be named Vulcan.
Seems logical.
Unfortunately, it turns out that 40 Eri B does not really exist.
The twist.
What?
Ooh. Originally, radial velocity was used to study the wavelengths of the light emitted from 40 Eridani A. The team observed what they thought was a gravitational tug on the star, indicating pull from an exoplanet. Very common way to discover planets around stars. But in tracing features of the light spectrum from the star, the team found that the pull was actually due to activity on the surface of the star, not evidence of an exoplanet. Now, our writer put in the same thing I was thinking as I read this the first time through. Are we living in the Kelvinverse where Vulcan was there, but it's not anymore?
Yes, it was imploded.
That's right.
Between 2018 and now. And poor Spock is out there watching.
Yeah. He's stuck and he's waiting for somebody to show up and pick him up.
I witnessed the destruction of my planet. Yeah, he's stuck in Siberia.
He's got Scotty there with him and Kinzer. So got that going for him.
Well, that's almost a bridge club.
Almost a bridge club. All right. So in a previous episode of The Topic is Trek, we talked about Nicolas Cage and a statement he made during an interview. He said that Pedro Pascal, best known these days for The Mandalorian, The Last of Us, you name it, has been trying to get Cage to appear in Mando. When the reporter asked Cage if he would do it, the actor replied, "I'm really down. I'm not really down. I'm more of a Trekkie. I'm on the Star Trek Enterprise. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do my best, Cage, but it ain't working. And that's
not
where
at all.
Yeah, he said so.
I'm not really down.
Yeah. And so he's bees. No. So he said that's what he said in the interview. It's kind of weird. He said, "I'm really on the Star Trek Enterprise role. I'm not on in the Star Wars family. I'm a Star Trek family. I'm in the Star Trek family." So he said now during the separate interview, the reporter was relayed this information to Pascal, and the actor was quick to reply saying, "Nick is one of the smartest people I ever met." And does he talk about the same Nick? Anyway, and I think that makes sense in terms of how cerebral and puzzle making a lot of Star Trek is. I will admit that it is a little over my head as a child. It lands on me much more as an adult. So he is just sort of smarter than us. Think about that for a minute. That doesn't mean that you would prefer Star Trek over Star Wars, because you can have both. Absolutely. And I agree with that. Absolutely. That's my words. But I can identify with his intellectual loyalty to Star Trek. He is a dedicated fan. Well done, Pedro. Well done.
Vote for Pedro.
Yeah, I was going to say vote for Pedro.
I mean,
I just had this discussion with my boss today. He got on a team call and he said, "Chuck just got back from a Star Trek cruise. Although I'm more of a Star Wars fan." I said, "Mark, why are you making trouble where there is none?" And everybody laughed.
Yeah, that's all right. Hey, during our meeting on Wednesday, my boss puts the notes for our large team meeting in OneNote, and I posted my facepalm picture of me on the bridge, on the chair rather. Anyway,
well, I was just thinking in my work today at home.
Your work, Bonnie.
Yeah,
Bonnie dishes out to you.
Yeah, that the IRS probably doesn't think that Nick is that smart, but that's another story altogether.
Oh,
Slam there. All
too
right.
soon.
On
Too
this
soon.
show, the topic is Nick.
Well,
when it has to do with IRS, it's way too soon. Always.
Yeah, let's move on to Vulcan, Alberta, Canada news. No Trek specific news out of Vulcan this time around, so we bring you this hot item. Vulcan County Council has awarded a $1.5 million Canadian contract to Kid Fire Trainers to complete the upgrades of the county's fire tower.
Yeah, you got to spell that. It's KIDDE, like the fire extinguishers.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's pronounced Kid, although STIHL is not still, it's steel, so anything goes.
I think Kitty. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Kitty. Okay. But that sounds a little. The Kitty Fire Trainer. That doesn't.
Well, it's got 2 D's in it. I mean,
you put your fire out, Mister.
No, leave me alone. And I'm not paying you a quarter.
Get out of here, kid.
I'll pay you.
Well, a proposal before council was to have the project completed over the next 2 years. The administration asked the council to consider completing the project in 2023 to limit the amount of downtime and to allow for increased training and rental opportunities. Completing the project in the single phase will also mitigate any unforeseen price changes or material shortages which could occur in 2024. We here at The Topic is Trek agree with the decision to get the project done as quickly as possible. We understand the importance of having properly trained firefighters when it comes to a place named Vulcan.
Right, which leads us... What's that?
Can I yes and this on a very personal note?
Sure. I didn't know we were doing improv.
I can tie
But
firefighters to Star Trek in a story from last Friday. We drove to Los Angeles for the cruise. We drove home on Friday, March 3rd. We got in our house about 3 p.m., started talking to my son-in-law and daughter as they were preparing dinner. Now, they wanted to cook out. So we don't cook out all that often, maybe once a month. They're cooking out, and all of a sudden, I walk out, and everybody's, like, in the corner of the lot, like the cat got into the bushes or something. I said, "What's going on?" They said, "There's smoke coming from next door." So they boosted me up on the cinder block wall. We have cinder block walls, and in our yard, we have 15-foot high oleanders. That would be about 5 meters to you Canadians. And I got up there, and there's this little shed in the very corner of the neighbor's lot that's on fire. And there's flames licking out of it.
Of course, it's the one closest to you.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
it's also right next to a bigger, like, utility shed made out of wood and whatnot,
full of dynamite. I'm just trying to make it interesting.
which has
Gasoline.
a chain link dog kennel with a mad dog barking in it next to that. So as much as I don't like that dog, I didn't want to see it go up in smoke. So I'm squirting water on this thing, but I'm not able to get water inside. You can hear the fire crackling and popping like a Christmas fire. So I said, "Lisa, call the fire department." She gets them on their way. Grantis and I run around the block, and I bang on the door. Little old lady answers the door. I said, "Hi, I'm your neighbor. You got a fire in your backyard. The fire department's on its way." We go back there, and by the time I get there, these flames are back. I mean, I knocked them down, but they were back about 7 feet in the air above the shed, now starting to endanger the bigger shed and my oleanders and everything else. So we get our garden hose, and we're squirting it down. The firemen show up, and you think they're going to take out their big fire hose? No, they take the little garden hose from me and squirt it some more. Turns
Just
out
put some water balloons on it.
this kind little old lady's son had made a homemade smoker. It looked like a steel outhouse is what it looked like.
Oh.
So she put this like 5-gallon steel pail full of burning wood inside of a steel shed that's framed with wood, and the frame caught on fire. And there's no chimney. That was the kicker.
Why would they put it inside the
what?
Inside the shed? I mean,
No, it wasn't inside the shed. It was a little shed next to a big shed.
Okay. All right.
And it was next to my yard. So if the little shed had gone up in flames, setting the big shed on flames, who knows what would have happened? We don't cook out that often. We're lucky to have been home when we were. We're lucky she was home, and it was the luck of the draw that this thing did not go sideways, because it could have gone really, really fast.
Yeah, your poor oleanders.
How about the poor houses around us?
I know. Actually, didn't your oleanders suffer?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe I misunderstood the picture you sent.
We return to the topic is home ownership.
Well, you mentioned fire departments and Star Trek. We had the cruise.
Which leads us to our GoFundMe for Vulcan, Alberta, Canada.
That's right, because they need to get that done now, clearly.
Okay. Moving right along.
So we've covered some interesting stories here, including a fire that was threatening things going on around Chuck. But we have an additional 59 Star Trek stories that we have listed in our show notes. You can find them over at episode 133, Last Call at the Disco, over at the topic is Trek.com. And one of the articles, really quickly, is about the passing of composer Gerald Fried. He's responsible for many pieces of music in film and television, but you might know him best for a certain piece of music, which we do not have the rights to, so we will not play, that involves Kirk and Spock having a fight on Vulcan. That piece of music, he was the composer of that piece of music.
I got to tell you, speaking of the music of Star Trek, I was just playing some in the car. Maybe I was on a high from the cruise or whatever. But I was a Star Trek high, not like a contact high or anything. Anyway, so I was in the car. I was listening to, I just told it to play the Undiscovered Country soundtrack because I really like that. But it kind of went on and was playing some others. And just listening to those, especially with like headphones, that is some beautiful music. I'm talking about everything from TOS on forward. There is so much good Star Trek music.
You were wearing headphones in the car?
You were driving wearing headphones?
That's not.
No, I ended up listening to some of it on my headphones. I'm just saying. that is so good to listen to. It's fantastic. And
Absolutely.
all of it's fantastic.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things, I don't know if I get a chance to talk about this during the episode, but I think one of the things I'm really enjoying about Picard is the fact that you're hearing not only a lot of Jerry Goldsmith music in there, but you're getting the references to the other composers, a lot of James Horner in there as well. So you have
Courage.
Yeah, you're having lots of these composers kind of all together in this thing. And I looked, and the last I had seen, they had not released a soundtrack for it. Now, one of the reasons you don't do that sometimes is because you've titled the cuts things that are spoilers. And I know once or twice there have been films that have been released, the soundtracks have been released before the film, and it's like, this is not a track, but it's like releasing Star Trek 2, and it's like Spock dies music, that type of thing.
Spoiler alert.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you know what? I actually thought the same thing. I was thinking of tweeting at Terry Metalis and say, hey, look, we need a soundtrack for Picard. They can do it afterwards. That's fine. But I mean, they're like, I heard hints of the Klingon music
absolutely.
from the motion picture. You can hear obviously music from Khan, everything. It's all in there.
Yep.
And I'm sure Nichelle Nichols is going to start singing here pretty soon. We're going to hear that in one episode, huh?
Could very well be. Which reminds me, when we're talking about the extra stories that we didn't get a chance to cover, I've often said that the way you can tell what's popular at the moment is how many links I have to a particular thing. Because we don't have any news other than the fact that Disco will end with season 5. There's only a few articles about Disco, but there are a lot of articles about Picard, because that's extremely, usually we'll get a fair amount of articles when the current show is showing, but I'm talking about a lot of articles, and I didn't even include them all. If there were, ones that are kind of close to each other, I picked and chose which ones I put in there, but extremely, extremely popular right now on the interwebs. All right. And with that said, it's time for my favorite part of the show, when I get to say goodbye, Charlie.
I want to stay.
Oh my God. No surprise.
Well, maybe he's off on the cruise. Well, the cruise is over.
If he wanted to stay so bad, he wouldn't be such a jerk.
I know. He should sit in the corner and think about that.
Actually, I think we were all saying that when we were leaving the ship. I want to stay.
Which leads directly into our away team report with an appropriate sound effect.
Oh, sound effect.
Insufficient sensor data.
Oh, this is going to make it interesting. But Chuck and Craig are just back. Well, about a week or so ago from Star Trek: The Cruise 6, and they're going to give us some highlights of what happened on there.
Hey, let me start by saying the weather is weird. I left here, and it was like 80 degree weather here in the South. We left from Atlanta, showed up in LA. I've got just shorts and t-shirts,
and it was
about one pair of jeans. And it was like in the 40s.
It snowed in some places.
Blizzard situations in areas, and rain when we were trying to get on the ship. It was crazy, and it was cool actually the entire time.
No, it wasn't. As soon as we went to Cabo, it was fine.
Not for
long. It wasn't cool. It was totally not cool.
It was the way there and the way back. As soon as we got out from behind the Baja Peninsula, it was
true.
Windy and chilly, and the boat was rocking, and it takes a lot to rock the big cruise boats.
I think it was rocking so much on the way back. We all got so used to it when everybody in our chat group were like
legs for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, I mentioned something. I said, "Hey, has everybody else still got sea legs?" Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes.
And then I said, I'm still waiting for my waiter to bring me the bread and take my drink order.
That's right.
3 days.
Well, let's back up to you guys being on the boat.
Back on the cruise. So I had a great time. As the years go by, it's less about moments with the celebrities. I mean, it's nice to see them and have them, and some are like usual, some are more accessible than others. It's more about seeing the friends we met on previous cruises.
Hey, and wouldn't you say that it was the same for Dragon Con?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
very much the same.
I mean, how many panels do we go to anymore? Zippo.
Zero. Yeah. Well, and it's like, oh, I don't want to see so and so signing autographs. I'm looking for Clinton, or I'm looking for whoever.
Right.
Scott. Oh, wait, Scott's not going to be there.
Only the cruise is less work than Dragon Con for us. We don't
Well,
have to really
that's true.
prepare a show.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was hanging out with, Craig and Kim and Melissa and her husband Chris, and we even met some new friends. We adopted a new, what would you call it, daughter?
Two
Sydney,
people. No, Darren and Sydney.
Darren and Sydney, and Mercedes was back. But it was good to see all my old karaoke friends. Kevin and Russ was back. Spent more time with him this time around because before the cruise, we got together for some karaoke on Thursday night before we set sail.
Yeah,
And
imagine that,
at a
Clinton.
microbrew. Well, Craig said, we're meeting up at a microbrew. And then I went, oh, I don't know. There's karaoke. I'm on my way.
Yeah, that's right. He was,
Warp
it was
speed indeed.
It was like the Roadrunner took off, and there was like a cloud.
There was a bit of repeat material on this one. I was a little disappointed in some respects. Garrett Wong reprised a lot of his 2020 material from his first comedy act because they were making a documentary, and they wanted some of his highlights.
About Garrett or about the cruise?
Was it about Voyager? Was it related to Voyager?
It was his cruise stories. I mean,
Okay.
he has it. And Kim made a good point. It's not really comedy with Garrett Wong. It's cruise stories with Garrett Wong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody that hadn't been on the cruise would be like, oh, okay. Or wasn't in the know. Yeah. They wouldn't understand,
They had another reading of John Delancey's Lost World. They did that on Star Trek: The Cruise 5.
Which was good, but yes.
They did the improv script reading of Devil in the Dark. They did that on Cruise 4. Like, what is going on?
Why would they do the same episode when they have so many to choose from?
Exactly, Eric. Exactly. Oh,
that's my line.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, I went to some of those things. They had the usual. You expect Robert Picardo and his buddy Jordan to do a musical night. That was fun. You expect the Rat Pack to come out and sing songs. Those were all like Star Trek parodies that Max Grodenchik had written. I mean, it was impressive just in the songwriting.
And from what I understand,
the delivery.
I know you were on the last the previous one, but the Rat Pack thing, those were all new songs, right? New.
I'm pretty sure they were. Yeah.
And they were great.
They had a community room this time where you could sign up and reserve the room for whatever you wanted. I mean, it could be trading stickers. It could be. We set up a meeting on Saturday after we set sail for a podcast meetup. And we had about 8, 9, 10 people there. Just kind of.
I was thinking more like 12 to 15. It was about 12 people.
Yeah. And after we did our introductions, there was a mic and an amp, and that's all we needed. We did our introductions, got to meet John Champion from various CBS things. I know him from Larry Nemechek's The Trek Files.
Yeah.
He was doing some onboard camera work.
Super nice guy.
I saw him buzzing around periodically.
And what a dapper dresser he is, let me say.
Yeah.
I don't use dapper all the time.
And when we got through all the introductions, we still got like 30 minutes to kill here, people. Let's have a panel. So we were quickly
panel broke out.
Exactly. It was I was the facilitator, and people said, well, let's talk Patreon or something. So we got up and had a fun discussion. That was a lot of fun. Of course, there was singing. Lots of opportunity for that.
Hey, by the way, back up just a second for the podcast meetup.
Yes.
Which there was a gentleman I met. Kim and I met. We sat down at one of the kind of long tables near the pool. Where it's about you sit at the table and everybody can eat. It's just along with the chairs and stuff. There's a long table, and we were talking to this guy, and he's told us how he was inspired by Gary Seven and how he was making a Star Trek museum in Oklahoma. And I was like, okay, do tell. And he said, well, how Gary Seven was sent to Earth to keep us from killing ourselves or doing things to harm ourselves. And so he was inspired by that, and that's why he was making this museum to kind of highlight some of the things that are good in society and talk about Star Trek and stuff too. So anyway, when the podcast meet up, I had not met this gentleman before, but I met this guy along with everybody else, and he was talking about how he was doing a podcast interviewing people that were inspired by Star Trek to do things, and I was like, here's the meetup right here. So I introduced the two. Let's see what happens there. But it's those kind of things that, organically show up. And I like that.
And one of the organic moments was with Nicole DeBoer. She played Esri Dax on the final season of DS9. She's just walking by, stops at Gorn's Mojito Bar, and we're sitting there. It's like, hey, pull up a chair. We sat and chatted with her and her friend Zoe.
It started out. She was coming. I saw her coming to the bar. I said, "Oh, that's Nicole." And all I did was wave because she looked at her in our direction. I just waved, and then she waved. She came over, and Chuck, Donna, and myself were sitting there. I was like, "You want to have a seat?" And she sat there and talked with us for about 20 minutes, and then her friend shows up, and we talked to them for another 20 minutes. And got to know them. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think she recognized me, even though we were singing and dancing on Sunday night to Aha, Take On Me. But
don't you know me? That's why.
Yeah. Did you start singing?
Fond memories from 2 days ago. Whoosh.
Right.
And I don't blame them. There's 10,000 people on this cruise. Okay,
well,
about 3,000 people.
What was kind of not strange, I don't know, interesting was we had that time together. We were all hanging out. Well, the next day, Kim and I went on an excursion. We come back, you know how it is. You get on one of the lower decks of the boat, and you go to the elevators.
Get on one of the lower decks of the boat. I see what you did there.
Right.
That's right. And everybody's kind of waiting on elevators. Well, she walks up and kind of grabs my elbow. It's like, "Hey there." I was like, "Oh my God." She's like,
Oh, she remembered you, but she didn't remember me, even though
that's all that matters.
Maybe she remembers this thing and went, "Oh yeah, I remember you."
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to sit with you.
Yeah, but we met her friend, and her friend's a restaurateur that opens restaurants in around the Toronto area, which that was interesting to talk about too. So
we also had a little moment with Bob Picardo. We were doing a group shot around the TOS captain's chair, and they had a backdrop cloth, so everybody's there. Craig's sitting in the captain's seat.
Well, it's all our group, the people Clinton, all our whole little group of friends that are on the cruise.
And Bob walks by, and I forgot what he did. He made a gesture or said something, it was kind of friendly, like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I got into like aggressive mode real fast. I'm like, "Oh, well, you can't walk by and do that and not get over here and get in the picture." So we boot Craig out of the captain's seat. Robert Picardo there
again.
We do a couple of shots.
We were trying to goad him to come back over, and he was actually reaching in his
pockets.
A
drink from the bar 10 feet away.
Yeah, and he's reaching in his pockets. I was like, "What's he doing?" And he pulls out his hollow emitter, puts it on his shoulder.
Right, because he noticed in the photo,
hollow emitter that he had to show off for our picture.
Yeah,
he's proud of that. He even mentioned it on stage the next night. He goes, "You like my hollow emitter?"
Yeah. Oh, you missed something. I don't know if you missed it, but you hadn't said it yet. Chuck and I got a hug from Doug Jones.
He was very approachable. He was probably the most approachable celebrity on board.
Interesting.
He said that when they were doing the intros. He said, "Look, if you see me around ship, I'm a hugger. Give me a hug." So,
and I thought he'd be above it all. You see, because he
was. He's above. Everybody's above me.
It wasn't just like, "Come here, pat, 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 now go away." He's giving you a soft conversation in your ear while you're hugging her.
He patted
him on
my
the
face.
Yeah,
he cupped my face. I was
he kissed a number of people on the forehead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm patting him on the back, and he goes, "Oh, I like that. That's a good hug." Not creepy at all, Doug. Not creepy at all.
He cupped my face, and then he reaches around, hugs me for a second, and as he was done, I was like, "I got to tell you one thing. I've been a fan of yours since McDonald's." And then, he kind of, "Oh, really?" And then, I didn't know he was actually doing it during.
Right.
I didn't know he was actually Mac tonight back then, but I know now. And that's the first thing that came to mind. And this couple beside me went, "What? McDonald's?" And he goes, "That was my first gig."
Right. Doug was the character in Mac Tonight, which was McDonald's attempt to have you for dinner to go to McDonald's
with the moon head.
Yeah,
that's right.
Play the piano.
Yeah, as you would call the McDonald's and reserve a booth, and for dinner.
Table for two, please.
But that was nice.
Dave
That was nice. And
We
to
have
see him-
commercials on YouTube if you want to see them.
Yeah.
Look up
Well,
Mac tonight.
and Chuck and I, we only approached him that one time, but I'm not kidding when I say we spotted him like 12 times, and he was
at least.
he was being patient and time, giving his time to whoever was talking with him, hugging people. I'm like, wow, it's pretty nice. He's a super spreader.
And well, on a cruise, I don't know if that's a good. But it's interesting because you sometimes can spot who's done a lot of conventions and such and who hasn't.
Yeah.
The hasn't done a lot's mingle. The has done a lot's not so much.
Right.
There are exceptions. I mean, Mary Chiefo is clearly an exception to that rule.
Yes.
Garrett Wong is also very
Right.
approachable.
Yeah, I tapped him. He was talking with some people, and as I was walking by, I said, "Hey, Garrett," I just tapped him on the shoulder and kept walking. I just patted him on the shoulder, and he'd always, "Hey, how you doing?" and keep talking and hanging out or whatever.
See you at Peachtree. There we go.
That's right. That's right. So there were like you said, there were some exceptions, like Doug or Garrett or whoever, but it was kind of nice. And we saw a few others that, "Oh, how you doing?" as they kept walking, and I saw Jonathan Frakes. He walked right by me and says, "Hey, Jonathan."
Dr. Noor, we had a little
Dr. Noor. Oh yeah, he recognized. He says he recognized us. Yeah.
As did Dr. Aaron McDonald's husband, Aaron. He said, "Hey, Chuck." I'm like, well, that was cool. One guy from ServiceNow land world recognized me. We're walking through the casino. I know he said we wouldn't get too deep into stories, but I got to tell this one. We're walking through the casino. He goes, "Are you Chuck Tomasi?" And I used one of my regular snappy comebacks. I said, "Are you the police?" And he like shuts down, and Kim goes, "Nice going, Chuck. You scared him. He's shaking now. He worked up all that courage to say hello." Hey,
right.
I'm just shattering the hero worship thing right here.
Never meet your heroes. Never meet your heroes.
He's a pretty nice guy, though. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, we had a 10-minute chat about work and what do you do and where are you from, and it was a lot of fun.
Now, leading into, I don't know unless you have something else, Chuck.
Nope.
Leading into us talking about Picard, we got to see episode 3 of Picard on the ship, and that was it was in the theater, so it wasn't like outside on the little Borg screen. I think they were showing movies before on a previous cruise when you were there.
Yep.
But we were in the theater, and it was fun watching everything unfold with everybody kind of cheering at certain moments.
It was like a movie.
Yeah.
Worf shows up on the screen. Yes.
Yeah. So you probably missed some dialogue over reactions.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like Worf says, "Beheadings are on Wednesdays," and everybody starts laughing, and you're like, "What did Ralphie say?"
Yeah.
What led up to that moment? So I had to go back when I got home and go, "Oh,
I had to watch that one.
What are you wearing anyway?"
Yeah.
It's casual.
What you're wearing?
Like beheadings on Tuesday, and then you find the follow-up line later. Okay.
That's right.
Nice segue into episodes 2, 3, and 4.
That's right. So we're going to discuss them. So this is definitely spoiler alert because we will be talking about the episodes, including apparently a bit of a spoiler for Craig, who unfortunately did not get a chance to see the last 10 minutes of.
Hey,
can I play it?
Actually,
Can I play it? I'm going to play it.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Right. Actually, I gotten to the point where I said they're going to do what I was thinking they were going to do, but I haven't seen them execute it. So I don't know. I haven't seen the final end of that.
Todd Stashwick is funny. They had to substitute him for John Billingsley at the last minute on the cruise.
Oh,
Todd Stashwick, Captain Shaw from Discovery. He's funny. And,
he was great.
Connie Newsom is a stitch. I mean, their improv skills really came in handy this week. They were just outrageous.
Yeah, and that's something I did want to point out as we're going into Picard. He actually introduced the episode that we watched on the ship.
Mhm.
And he came out and he said something that I was kind of thinking at the same time. He goes, "You guys have shown me so much love. Like, I've been here since the 90s. He says, "Well, I've been here since the 90s, but like he's been involved in Star Trek, but I've only been in 2 episodes." But everybody was really clapping for him and really appreciating him being there. And he was funny.
I thought you were going to say the same thought as you. If everyone in this room gives me $1, I'll know.
That's when he pushed his pitch for the GoFundMe.
All right, back to episode 2.
But anyway, he was great. I just want to say he was great. And and didn't he do he did the vows actually.
He did the renewal of the vows. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don
stuff
will
like
make
that.
it
So he really jumped in head first with Star Trek Crown. It was great.
All right. So,
yeah,
Chuck, why don't you give
supposedly-
us a little bit of information on episode 2 of the 3 we're going to be talking about tonight?
in great juxtaposition to renewing of the vows, this one's called Disengage.
Disengaged. What? No.
This is written by Christopher Monfett. I'll go with that. And Sean Tretta, directed by Douglas Aaron Yakoski. I'm going to work on that. I have a speech impediment. Here's the short plot synopsis. Aided by 7 of 9 and the crew of the USS Titan, Picard makes a shocking discovery that will alter his life forever and puts him on a collision course with the most cunning enemy he's ever encountered. Meanwhile, Ruffy races to track a catastrophic weapon and collides with a familiar ally.
Bam.
Boom.
Who might that be? So we had a discussion, I believe
Barkley.
it was after the last we were done,
We did. We were trying to
Recording-
predict who the handler was,
and
Yeah.
I said it was going to be Worf.
and I was wrong.
And I said Worf as well.
I think,
But I was right on another prediction that we'll get to later.
yes. So, all right, let's talk about
Hey,
the.
I'm telling you, it was the wording that they used. And when he said warrior,
Right.
who else uses that word?
Right.
Well,
Except
okay.
for
So
maybe
Worf
Picard.
rescues her from Smeed, beheads the Ferengi. That's what we saw at the end of episode
Right.
1. But she's drugged and gets taken out. And that's when you see Worf at the end go, yay. So
Which leads directly into episode 3.
Hey, Worf, the silver fox Klingon.
And episode 3,
they,
I'm going
they
to
had
keep
all of the
moving.
costumes and props from Picard in the museum. The ship, the Rafi's cloak, Worf's it's not a mechleth, it's a
Catalyst.
bigger version.
Catalyst, or yeah.
named after the person that designed the weapons.
Ah.
All right. So episode 3 is called 17 Seconds, written by Jane Magg and Cindy Appel, and directed by Jonathan Frakes. Short plot synopsis. Picard grapples with a life-altering revelation as the crew of the Titan attempts to outmaneuver Vadic, while Raffi and Worf uncover a plot by a vengeful enemy.
Dun, dun, dun.
And
right.
next one, Craig?
All right. So episode 4, titled No Win Scenario, written by Terry Matalas and Sean Tretta, and directed by Jonathan
It's a new
Jonathan
kid.
Frakes.
Luke,
Practice.
Who, Jackman? No, directed by Jonathan Frakes. So the short synopsis for this is Picard and Riker and crew must confront the sins of their past as the Titan drifts helplessly into a mysterious space anomaly.
So that is a lot that happened. And, don't think we have time to go through all the
Play by
plots of
play.
everything.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a bit just about the characters over the course of the 3 episodes,
Yeah.
starting with Raffi. Now, I did not see really coming this idea that she was going to be pairing up with Worf to go on this adventure. I didn't really think that much about it. I think because I tend to think that she pairs up with 7.
Right.
What did you
Literally.
guys? Yeah. What did you guys think about this idea that the 2 of them were going to be the ones going on this investigation of the thefts from the Daystrom Institute?
I liked it. I thought it was a great pairing. I did not see it coming. I like the new and improved Worf. I'm working on myself.
Yeah.
Opposed
MMOG.
opposed with Rafi, who's a hot mess, in a number of ways, family, drugs, etc. So this is a curious partnership, and I'm eager to see what comes of it. I'm eagerly waiting for them to tie these 2 storylines together.
Well, I think they will when we get to the point where they do their investigation at Daystrom, where apparently if you take something from Daystrom, they don't bother to do an inventory afterwards.
Oh, wait. Wasn't that just there? Yeah. Yeah.
Also, this is
I-
didn't they also steal something from the Daystrom Institute in season 1 of Picard? It's like somebody's security has really lapsed here.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the the data banks on the Enterprise. Just have at them.
I will say, speaking of the pairing, obviously I realized that Worf was the handler that we didn't know, the faceless handler. I knew he was going to be that, but I didn't realize they're going to pair him up like that. And I think it's a perfect pairing because it is a great bad cop, good cop kind of thing.
Yes, you can keep your fingernails.
Yeah, which they demonstrated with the changeling guy. But as you mentioned, Chuck, they're Worf's like his batleth. He's been sharpened and he keeps changing himself, kind of honing himself in. And then you got Ralphie, which is kind of all over the place. So I think it makes a perfect coupling where they can probably feed off each other a little bit, or at least help Ralphie some.
They're the odd couple in space. But I was thinking about that when they were interrogating the changeling, that whole good cop, bad cop thing they had going, out of no plan to do it. They didn't say, hey, we're going to do this thing and I'm going to be, no, that was just, who they were.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Another character interesting twist that I thought we knew from Vadic's statement, about his psychological profile, Shaw had some issues, which come out in episode 4. What I didn't expect was Riker's, he was avoiding the fight. He kept saying, we're going to take us safely home. And, Picard was, no, we got to turn around and fight. He's given us no choice. And they kind of belabored that into the crisis of the Titan getting disabled.
Well, I was viewing it as
so passive.
I was viewing that as the fear of loss, that, he lost his son. And I think that he doesn't want, because in episode 4, he talks about death a bit. And I think that that's weighing on his mind. And he just keeps going over and over and over that. And he doesn't want that to happen again. So his desire is to retreat to the safe space and not try to go after a ship that they're clearly outgunned by.
Yeah. Well, I had that thing when we were watching the episode and Riker gets command and everybody was like, yeah. And I was ready for him to start, spewing out.
Put that leg up and start doing things. Yeah.
And he's like, he was just like, they're still talking about it into the second episode, what they're going to do, or they're kind of giving up. I'm like, this is not what I was expecting at all.
Right. And I think you're right, Clinton. It has to do with his backstory, the loss of his son, the relationship or lack thereof with Deanna. So I think that's playing on his mind. And then finally, towards the end of episode 4, sorry, Craig, Dr. Crusher and Picard talk him into, let's do what we know how to do best.
Yeah, I saw that part. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. It's another thing that I was very puzzled by in the episode when it happened, but episode 4 finally gave me the answer to this, is that when Shaw is disabled, he looks directly at Riker and says, this is your fault. You got us into this. And I'm thinking, no, Picard is the one who got you into this. Why in the world would it? And we find out in episode 4 why he certainly would not give control of his ship to Picard.
Right. Well, and the same was true when, Riker said, get off the bridge, Picard. You've killed us all. It's like, no, you made the decision to follow his suggestion. So, that's on the captain. If you're going to take responsibility for the ship, you should take all responsibility for the ship, regardless of where the direction is coming from. I thought that was a little weak on Riker's part. The other one that's left hanging is there's a point where Beverly turns to Jack and says, they're going to need us. Like, I haven't unhooked that yet or found out what that was all about. We're getting tantalizing tips, like when he got knocked out by the Vitrian gas or whatever it was, and he sees Seven and there's red tentacles and crap.
And a door hallucinating a little bit in the background.
And we see sorry, Craig, a little more of that at the very end of episode 4. Something's up with
Hey,
now.
you can stop apologizing. I'm gonna watch it as soon as we're done.
Now
here.
it's now it's a Nightmare Before Christmas. Something's up with Jack. Something's up with Jack.
Yeah, and
Right.
we still don't really have any clue what the deal is, why everyone is so desperate
After him.
to,
Yeah.
even though Beverly is saying, I don't think it's about Jack, I think it's about you, to Jean-Luc.
Mhm.
I'm not convinced of that, because they seem to be so intent on it. I mean, they're sending this mysterious 3-dimensional thing that kind of lives in Vadic, is saying, you're not important, this is important, you have to go into this. She says, I don't want to go into there.
Oh, yeah.
No, you missed
you're
you
going.
missed the pun entirely. How did she summon that little creature?
She had something up her sleeve, clearly, but
she cut off her hand. That makes him the handler. Boom.
Oh God.
You guys missed it.
yeah.
As soon as I saw
I'm done here.
We didn't say it. We didn't say we missed it, though. Let's put it that way. So, and that was not a changeling, as far as I can tell, because we've never, the founders didn't look like that.
Sort of like
I was trying to figure that out if it was or not. I have no idea. But
it was something new we haven't seen, but it looked like a variation of a changeling / communications device /
well, except it had an odd face.
Yeah.
And in the regular form, they're just right, but they're just liquid. So it shows that for a reason. If it's a changeling, I'm thinking, why would you choose that? And also, why do you have to hover above the surface? So there's
the magical steel pot, whatever it was.
Right.
Well, the pot figures in differently, because we see a little tiny depth. So you saw the little picture of Odo when we see the pad that is talking about the urn that the changelings have to go back into. And I didn't know, fun fact we didn't know before, but goo apparently is sometimes left in that pot.
Residue. I love that. Residue. You got to steal their pot. And she says, I assume you're not talking about cannabis.
Yeah.
Like,
dude. I think he says something like, yeah, I wish. But anyway.
Yeah, I wish. Hey, by the way,
that was the kind of wit Todd Stashwick has in person, too.
Yeah, it is about right. Hey, speaking of changelings, did y'all realize, and Chuck Clinton, you may have seen this story floating around, but the first changeling we see with Worf and Rafi is Thomas Dekker, who is actually one of Picard's kids in Generation movie.
I remember that actor was going to be in it. I did not remember that was the part.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, there's no special.
Which was also interesting, because at some points when they're really grilling him and he's getting really tight-faced.
Yeah.
He looks a bit like Combs.
Oh, I was going to say he looked like the Doctor Who guy. Yes, David Tennant.
Well, I
kind of did the Mad Eye Moody thing.
He does look a little bit like that. And the story I read said that he just auditioned. He didn't mention anything about Star Trek, so it was kind of a surprise to everybody when they realized, oh, he was already on Star Trek. So that's another actor that's come back from the TNG era.
I also get a kick out of the fact that on Twitter, the actor who plays the changeling on board the Titan, when the first episode aired, and that one, when Picard and Riker were coming on board, he kind of gives this look.
Oh, he changes
Well,
Picard fixes this thing.
No, I think that's somebody else. But when it's passing by, he is looking at them. You guys can just get this glance. And the actor said, "Hey, look, it's now official. I'm in Star Trek." And I thought, and Terry Matalas responded to that with something or other, and I did as well, to them saying,
"No, you're not. We cut your scene."
Well, no, it's right there. It's a still. Look, I got that. And I'm thinking now, it's like maybe Terry's also private message. We don't want to draw a lot of attention to your character right now, because it's important later.
Back off.
I was right, though, when I think we were discussing who's the bad guy, and I said, I don't trust Ensign LaForge. Well,
yes, in a way.
he came back as the bad guy, sort of. It was the changeling impersonating her, but I was right. It's like she's gonna cross you.
Now, what did Seven use that knocked out the changeling? Because she was using a phaser before, firing point blank, and nothing was happening.
Well, the guy she met in the hallway, it shot off his arm. He grew it back, and then she shot him again, but he escaped through the hatch.
She shot him several times.
I don't know what happened. Maybe it was because she was point blank that it kind of went, right into Changeling LaForge's chest and killed it. I don't know.
Because I was wondering why this one was this encounter was different. But I don't know about you guys, but I certainly did not see Dominion figuring into this plot line of this story.
No, not at the beginning. I think that was
I don't think anybody did.
We have to talk about the elephant in the room, though. The ending of episode 4. What happens to the nebula?
Okay, go ahead.
Right, because we have those
energy pulses. They said we're getting biometric pulses
and they mentioned it 2 or 3 times. Yeah, they mentioned 2 or 3.
Right.
Yeah.
But I thought you meant about the punchline, if you will, that was set up in episode 2. Because in episode 2, Vadic ship tosses the medical ship at the Titan.
Yep.
Yes.
And in episode 4, Riker tosses
an asteroid at the Shrike
and knocks it out of commission.
Little known fact about Shrikes: it's a bird of prey, which they mentioned, but it'll catch like a grasshopper or a locust or something, and then find a thorn tree or a chain link fence or something that has a spike on it, and it will impale its prey or its victim onto that spike and come back for it later. So if you ever walk by a tree and there's like crickets lining the thorns,
like heads on spikes.
Yeah,
pretty much always the whole thing impaled.
And a bird like doing this to you, it's like,
you're next.
Get out of there. Get out.
That's a Shrike.
Okay, right. But that was what I was thinking. But you go ahead with the other part there.
Okay, so they're getting both, what was it, electrical and biological pulses from the nebula,
and they made a strong point of not that. Yeah.
Yep. And then Beverly starts timing them. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. Like, what is she doing? And she finally comes forth and says, it's like contractions. Someone's going to have a baby. Well,
space baby.
What did you all think about the result of that?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll break the news to you. Remember Farpoint, and they even mentioned
they do specifically call it out.
Right? Oh yeah, I remember
the space jellyfish.
Mm-hmm.
This is where they were born. There's like a gazillion of these little squiddies at the end.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're the same species, but they certainly are damn close. I mean, they're babies, so they might not.
So everything's come full circle. Now we're doing with the crystalline entity one more time.
Yeah, which I think they mentioned
the jellyfish
at some point.
We got the jellyfish.
Yeah, I meant the jellyfish.
I was scratching my head on that one. I'm not sure how the market is going to take it.
On
the jellyfish.
I mean, that's classic Trek to me. Is that you think it's going to be this one thing that's going to destroy everything, and then suddenly it turns out, nope, it's just the universe being the universe, just doing a thing.
Well, that's true.
Giving birth.
Can we have Troy saying great joy and gratitude too?
When she shows up right now, she's just on screens.
Which I'm ready to see the other cast members show up.
So now we're 4 episodes in.
Where's LeVar?
We're halfway there, right? Or
we're almost halfway through.
Living on a prayer. Yep.
So although we've seen Deanna in 2 episodes now, they both times have been on a screen.
Right.
And I think they're all together at we were promised they'd all be together in not just one little scene, but in several scenes. So it's got to happen pretty quick.
I imagine the last 2 episodes, they're probably going to be in there prominently together.
There were some heavy scenes. There were some heavy scenes in these last couple episodes.
Oh man, Picard and Beverly,
right. Or Riker being shaken when he finally reconciles with Picard at the end. You can hear his voice quaking as he's talking about when we buried my son.
Oh yeah.
Like,
And
whoa.
we have a I think the biggest gut punch is the end of episode 4, because Beverly had said that, well, I told Jack who you were and
where to
how
find
to find you, and he chose not to do it. And of course we have Picard telling all these stories to the cadets and people at the academy, blah blah blah. And then you hear this one voice talk about, did you ever have another family? And it was Jack in that bar asking that question, and Picard answers,
Jean-Luc didn't know who he was.
Right, because he'd never seen him before. It said, Starfleet is my family. I don't need another one.
Yeah, Starfleet is the only family I've ever needed. I'm like, whoa! No wonder he stayed out of his life.
God,
and the next time he looks back, there's no one sitting in the bar stool anymore. And then, so you get that realization from Picard at the conclusion of the episode when he's looking at Jack, realizing, oh my God, that was that person. He did come and see me, and that was what I told him.
Long silent stare from both of them on camera. It was great. The other emotional one I got was when Picard jumped into the captain's seat of the Titan to.
That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Like
jumping is a little generous, but okay.
Yeah, he is a little older. Come on, he's not jumping.
He did pull a Picard maneuver once he sat down. Immediately, that was the first thing he did, was tug.
Yeah, that's right.
I half expected the Titan to kind of slingshot around one of those asteroids, but they did not do that.
I was expecting them to do the Picard maneuver and have it warp ahead, so you see 2 ships at one time. Well,
we haven't talked about the portal weapon either.
They abandoned it. I was like, why did she ditch the portal weapon? I didn't understand.
She said she had to turn that power was needed if they were going into.
They dropped it off. Remember, as soon as the Shrike turned around, you could see it going.
It came right at the camera, and I could not freeze. It says something on there. There's an Easter egg or something like.
It says portal weapon.
Property of Daystrom Institute. Do not remove.
Something flashes in the very top of the screen for a second. My guess is, so does it look like the same thing that's in the end credits with all the call outs pointing to it?
Maybe.
Because as you watch episodes and you watch the end credits, you go, okay, this is from this episode, and that's from that episode, and that's from that episode.
You got to put the jigsaw pieces back in where they go.
Well, all right. So we talked about these episodes. Something, I saw an article where they were talking about, well, it's a big nostalgia fest, but you know what? It is, but I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And I think
there's a good underlying story here too.
I think there's enough changed up. I mean, I'm obviously nostalgic to see these characters interact with each other, but it's also interesting to see how they progressed as we've heard, I sort of say Jean-Luc, but as we've heard Patrick Stewart talk about, they've gotten older as we've gotten older, and which is really the case, because you're like, oh, well, these people have a lot of baggage now after their age, and it's really cool to see their interactions, as they know each other today. And so, nostalgic or not, I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
It's fun to go back and watch like TNG when they aged themselves, like on All Good Things, and you look at how they tried to age Beverly, and so like you got toilet paper on your neck or something. She aged better in real life than they did than Michael Westmore did for makeup.
I mean, she looked convincing back then, but she doesn't look anything like she does now.
No.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I'm sitting there. I like the last episode that we watched on the ship. I probably watched it like 3 or 4 times, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and then I go out in the living room and Donna's watching. I was like, I'm sitting down again. She said, "Did you miss it?" I'm nope, taking notes for the show.
Well, part of it's just to see Worf doing stuff. It's like I love seeing Michael Dorn as Worf.
And I would say a fun little game to play is spot the number of Orions on the.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
They blew the budget on green makeup.
Yeah, we had a security person who was with 7, who was an Orion, and there's also one in medical. It's not,
yep.
And on Metallus Prime.
There's
a bunch of them on Metallus Prime.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't Tendi in Sick Bay.
No, that we know of anyway. It wasn't.
I'm ready for the Exocomp to show up.
A peanut hamper. No thanks. Leave it.
Still drifting through space. Well, I'm I forget the timing. I did look this up before, and we've had this discussion before about the timing between Lower Decks and this, because if they go to the Daystrom Institute, I'm thinking, well, you should have Peanut Hamper there and all these other, things that get put there. But I'm thinking, I think that's after, or I can't remember exactly where it falls, because Lower Decks is still in just after Nemesis range, and Picard is later than that.
Yeah.
So those things wouldn't be there yet. Which
I
is
just searched for Star Trek Picard Lower Decks timeline, and I got Star Trek Lower Decks premiered on CBS. All that.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm looking for.
No, you don't understand. You don't
Stupid
understand.
Google. Yeah,
All right,
stupid
so we can rate these just as a group because it's really hard to
Yep.
intertwine these things to do so.
It's a lot like the movies: Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Voyage Home. 2, 3,
Except-
and 4, they go together,
One has whales in it. That's how you can tell them apart.
and the other has cetaceans. Oh, sorry.
All right, so let's rate this on what do we get? What do we want for a scale here? Solids,
Solids. Yeah.
Buckets.
Sure. Why not? Yeah. Buckets.
buckets. Okay. All right, so Chuck, why don't you go first for 2, 3, and 4 together as a group?
All together now. I'm going with a solid 9. This was good stuff. I can't think of too much to pick on. It left me scratching my head in a few places, and I wasn't real keen on the space squids at the end.
Okay. I'm going to rate it 8.5, and I'm going to go 8.5. It was almost a 9 for me. The one drawback for me is that you have 3 plot lines going on, if you will. I mean, the 2 main ones, and then you also have, Vadic, and we seem to forget about major plot lines for an entire episode, which is frustrating.
Laffy wasn't anywhere in
Yeah.
episode
Everything's
4.
kind of split up a little bit. Yeah.
Right. So for that, just a little lower for 8.5 for me on that.
I noticed that too. I went, was there any scene? Were they in the very beginning, or yeah? I was confused on 4 where the other plot line was going.
I'm going to give it also 9 buckets because I love the callbacks and I love the progression the characters have made. So I mean, I keep looking forward to these episodes. Today I was excited because it was Thursday, so I wanted to say the episode, which I didn't get to do until tonight. But I'm loving everything about it. Everything from the newer look of the Elcars to the ship to the characters, you name it. I mean, it's hard to, like you said, pick on anything. So
The music, the lighting,
the music,
well done.
everything is
Well
there.
done.
They are hitting on all cylinders. And kudos to Terry Metalis and all the other writers because this is fantastic.
Absolutely. All right. Let's move on directly to our Warp Speed Roundtable.
Do we need a sound effect?
Sure. Give us one.
Okay. The sick bay scanner it is.
All
Not
right.
terribly exciting, but very important if your life is in
Chuck,
danger.
I think you have a heart palpitating there.
This sound effect brought to you by Sick Bay. Stop by Sick Bay, open Tuesdays from 6 to 8 p.m.
What? Where Riker will administer you, medication without even batting an eyelash. Last time around, we asked you to invent a unique way to destroy the new Enterprise NCC 1701F. And Mad Marv gave us this scenario. I predict that the main computer will gain sentience from a transporter accident with the Doctor from Voyager. His pattern in the buffer jumps the firewall and rubs off onto the main computer. The computer starts to speak and sound exactly like Moriarty, while totally denying that Moriarty is back. Everything goes downhill from there until Moriarty decides to time travel the Enterprise back to his home in 19th century England. He drops a decimal point, or 3, in his calculations, and the Enterprise goes somewhere, somewhen, and is never seen again. Maybe, depends if he takes Jellicoe, Pulaski, and etc. with him.
Hey, wait a minute.
So-
That's a weird setup. Jellicoe, Pulaski, who would be the counselor on that spinoff of Star Trek?
That
That
Warp.
is a unique way to destroy the Enterprise.
What? Yeah. All right.
All right. So this time around, with the the announcement that season 5 will be the last season of Discovery, I asked Chuck and Craig to come up with, and I did as well, 3 top moments from Discovery seasons 1 through 4. So we'll do a round robin on this one. Let me just get my notes here. I will start things off, and then I'll go to Craig and then Chuck. I'm going to start off with it's 2 things in one. It's like when you put the chocolate and the peanut butter together. The first part is Tilly's introduction when she walks in to her quarters, and Burnham is there lying on the cot, and she just rambles on and on about stuff, a guaranteed best friend, and of course the only Michael that I know is the mutineer.
Right.
And then the second half
that was a good scene, by the way. I love that.
Absolutely. The second half of that is when Tilly turns into Killy. That first scene when she walks onto the bridge and is just like, where did all that come from?
Yeah, that was fun.
Because it was great to have that character so established in such a short amount of time that was a 180, and you knew it was a 180 on that character.
She was struggling at first too. She was like, "Well, I'm going to cut out your tongue and lick my."
No. Her moment of doubt is when she swears at Lorca and Burnham in the ready room. And he says, no, I think that's appropriate, for this universe. When she steps out, she starts barking commands to the bridge crew even before they turn on the view screen, and they're looking like, whoa, damn, I guess this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, right.
So no, she was all in it at that point.
Yeah, so that was great. Yeah.
Kind of two heads of one coin, 2 sides of one coin there.
I would say, to add to that, Tilly is probably a highlight of the whole series, period.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's been in there. Yeah.
All right, Craig, what's your first?
My first was I really liked when when Pike.
I missed that episode.
He went back in the past to get when Pike showed up, of course, and he finally sees himself in the chair. And they got the makeup on and everything, and then you see the Telosians there and the whole thing. I like that. I really liked when Pike saw himself. Now I'm not saying it's a highlight. Maybe like a lot of people would think, but I thought that was really cool callback.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it's a setup for something that haunts him through most of season 1 of Strange New Worlds.
Well, yeah, and that was the point when everybody was like, "We want a Pike series. We want a Pike series," and they were having to play coy about it because I'm sure it was already planned. When we finally got it, a few years later.
Well, they did admit, a number of people admitted, they said, hey, if you want to see something on Star Trek, let us know. Let the writers know, because that's how we got Strange New Worlds. The fans demanded it.
Yep.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, very much so.
All right. What about you, Chuck? What's your first?
I'm going to start out with Ripper. I liked the tardigrade. I thought that was an interesting addition, an interesting angle to take. People went, Spore Drive. How come we never heard anything about that? How could it be canon if it was never mentioned before?
Right.
Because season 1 was getting a bit of a chain yanking, but I thought I liked Ripper. I just thought it was a great, ripping through the hull with its claws, and then
and you didn't know what it was going to happen when it was in that cell that Lorca had there for a while, and you're like, it's a little dangerous. Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns with it. Yeah.
And it ends up curling itself into a little ball because it's just,
I'm done.
He went the way of the caretaker.
Make yourself small.
All right, I'm going to go on to my second. My second is Pike's first appearance on the bridge of the Discovery, because that scene was very important. I think when you're watching the scene, you're also thinking the same thing. It's like, we just went through this whole season with basically a captain who out and out lied, almost got them killed. And so you have this new person showing up that we know, but they don't. And how is he going to convince them of that it is not the same situation? And you notice even in that scene, he says, I'm not Lorca. They're still they're not sure. And it's just the way he presents himself in that scene, and then the following scene where he's asking people to just give me your name,
Yeah.
everything else not
Roll
not
call.
important. Yeah, I just want to know who you are.
Mhm.
That
Well,
sells it
Yeah.
to both us and to the crew at the same time.
Well, to your point, Lorca was lying and deceiving everybody. Here was Pike on the bridge being openly honest with everybody. Because remember, he said, "Oh, well, there's my my one fail, at the academy," and he was just being open about everything. And yeah, it was a very great juxtaposition between the two captains.
Absolutely. And how about you, Craig? What's your second?
Well, I jokingly sent Clinton a picture of Michael eating the Kelpian, but that was
Too soon, man. Too soon.
It's actually, I wish you could see it, Chuck. He's got the chopsticks literally putting it in her mouth. Anyways, the next moment was between Stamets and Culber. Not necessarily them two in the scene I'm talking about, but I didn't realize how invested I was in them until Tyler, killed Culber.
Spoiler
And,
alert.
and I'm like, whoa, no. I remember sitting on the couch with Harrison. I was like, no. I was yelling at the TV because I was like, I really liked Culber to begin for him, just him alone. But I was kind of invested in their relationship for some reason. But I thought it was really cool. Not cool. I thought it was really a downer. I meant to say that when he killed him, it was like, well, there goes that. We're never going to see him anymore.
And it is, in essence, killed him in front of Stamets.
It did.
Yeah.
Stamets
Yeah.
was in the catatonic state, kind of,
Yep. Yep.
in the table. So yes, I thought that was pretty bad. And of course, along with that is the twist. You kind of find out about Tyler, Voke, Ash, kind of situation as well, which that was kind of a big twist.
Indeed. All right. What about you, Chuck? Number 2.
Mine was the first time you see the Discovery and the Enterprise on the same screen at the same time.
Actually, that was my bonus when I sent Clinton. I was like, that last frame. I remember looking at that a million times. Yeah. Sorry.
I think you had it on as the background on all three of your monitors. That kind of
I
thing.
did.
Craig went a little bit over his phone.
Well, it
Showing
looks so
family
cool.
pictures at the reunion, and here's 2 ships.
There's Harrison when he was 2 years old. Oh, there's the Enterprise and Discovery.
And then Harrison learned to walk. And look, it's the Enterprise and the Discovery again.
This is frame number 312.
This is our wedding. And here's frame 313.
I was enamored by the Enterprise when it showed up the way it was.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you get that image. The Enterprise stops as it gets within, certain distance of Discovery. Cut. Wait for next season.
Yeah.
What?
Exactly. What? That was it's like, man, I want to see what, and you don't know if they're getting attack mode or they're just approaching them. It's like, what's going on? So
right. And they were hailing them because they had been damaged, and it's like, well, what's all that about? And
that was the best cliffhanger ever. It's like, we just saw the Enterprise for like 2 seconds. All right.
It had its theme music, so there you go.
Yeah.
All right. My third one is also kind of another 2-parter. It's the introduction in the first episode of season 3 of Discovery of Federation liaison Sahil. He's the one that's on the post, and Burnham and Book go to the station because she's trying to find out where the Discovery is, and he doesn't have that information because he can only cover one small sector. And then he admits that he was never actually commissioned, that his father was, and his father was, and he's just been doing this for 40 years, waiting for someone to show up. And he says, and that person is you, to Burnham. And it was very, then they're raising or lowering the Federation flag, which is much diminished.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
oh yeah, that's right.
You hope for something that you figure is not going to happen, but in the final episode of the season, he shows up again at Starfleet headquarters in uniform, having made contact with the rest of the Federation and Starfleet. So to me, that was a great moment very emotional moment at the beginning of the season, and that it actually had a payoff with a scene because he talks to Michael. So it's not just him passing by. They have a scene to bookend what happened at the beginning of the season, which I thought was great.
Nice.
All right. And your number 3, Craig.
Yeah, my last one that was and again, these are scenes that just kind of popped in my head. I didn't go digging around, but this is one that really stood out to me was that dinner scene when Saru was trying to work through everybody's PTSD about what had happened, and of course Filippo was there, the emperor. She was
Throwing off the barbs left and right.
Yeah, she's throwing that out. But to me, that was kind of a turning point when it wasn't just about Michael only. It was about, they started involving the other characters more. Because, to the first season, you're like, you hardly knew the names of these other characters. And so at this point was when we started bringing an emotional level to everybody. And they're all kind of working their way through this meal. And at first, it's kind of okay. And it kind of descends and breaks apart. But it shows the emotional baggage that these people have had over this emotional time they've had prior to that. So I thought that was a pretty impactful scene.
Yeah, because even when the scene broke down,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, I've been to that Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
You're all family, but at some point you go,
And why is this turkey blue?
Yeah. Oh, give that to Shaw. He'll eat it. He'll eat anything that's blue.
Hey, the replicators are broken. We got real turkeys down here, Kirk.
Well, we're hopping back to TOS all of a sudden.
God is my witness. I thought turkeys could fly.
Wasn't it TAS? They had real turkeys in the.
I don't know. No, I think because of it's TOS because Kirk makes the point. Doesn't he make the point about even though we're in space, I'd like it to taste like real. Maybe that was Christmas. Maybe it was a Christmas. I don't know. One of those holidays.
A Star Trek holiday special.
Yes. No. Quick, get that up. Give us your third one, Chuck.
I need some brainwash, brain bleach. There you go.
Mine's very general. It's any fight scene with Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, bingo. That's a good one.
Right. I had like an alternate in case you guys had one of mine was the Giorgio's complete pummeling of Leland/Control.
Yep.
At the end of season 2,
mm-hmm.
where she gleefully presses the button that has him disintegrate. She just laughs and cackles. Just like awesome.
Yeah. Well, as imperfect as Discovery is, there is a lot of good points to it. So, where would it rank in your franchise parts?
I would like to. I mean, I've always said that it's hard to judge them while you're in the middle of it.
Right.
Right. Good point.
That you need to
would have ranked really low back in the day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a whole nother season to go through, which apparently will be different than the other seasons. If some of the other seasons have been different than each other. Yeah. So we will see how that all works out. And I really think people that not to your point exactly, Craig, but I don't like it if somebody like snap judgments about.
No, you're right. You're right. We need to see the whole thing before we can make a judgment on it.
Oh,
the one, and speaking of, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just know that we had a comment from listener Diane about a highlight here. Let's see. Can I show that? And can you guys read it because it's really small?
Oh, I'm not even seeing.
When we see Saru's home for the first time and how he ended up in space when Kayla goes out the airlock, and number 1, Rainn Wilson.
Yes,
Wilson. I was gonna do Harry Mudd, but yeah,
he was really good at that. I wanted to see him again. I guess we probably could.
You could. You have to have some dancing going on there because Spock can't see him. Right, there's certain people that can't see him if you do Harry Mudd.
Mm-hmm.
In this, otherwise,
Well, Spock can be at a conference.
Yes,
that week.
So, our prediction: the next time Spock is off the ship, expect Harry Mudd to show up.
Right, The only thing I wish that Discovery had done a little differently, and I don't know if you guys have opinions on some of the things they would have done differently. I wish they'd have portrayed the Klingons more like we know the Klingons from like TNG a little bit more.
You didn't like the reinvented Discovery Klingons?
I don't know. They tried to retcon it, and then later on, but said, "Oh, well, they were bald during wartime, and now they got hair." I'm like,
I didn't mind it, and I think that one of the things that is going to be interesting about this idea of like where does Discovery sit in the framework of stuff in the over the passage of time is that it took Trek places that Trek hadn't been before. No pun intended,
true.
but
Yeah.
And they swung at a lot of things. Were they always successful? No, but do you want to play it so safe that there's no change? No. So I think that, while the Klingons, and I really didn't mind them that much. Well, the Klingons weren't everybody's like. It's the idea of let's push that envelope a bit this way, and let's push that envelope a little bit that way. And if there's too much negative feedback, then we pull back a little bit from that. But we don't want to not do it because we're afraid of what fans are going to think of it constantly.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I'm fine. I am ultimately fine with it. I just said I wish they would have done them a little more traditionally because they seem kind of marble mouthed and hard to move. Even as a character,
they were.
Yeah, I was like, what? It looks like how are they going to fight? Because they're not nimble. It just seemed kind of stiff. That's the only thing now the people that played the Klingon, I thought the characters are great.
They will attack them with their pointy costumes, the pointy uniforms.
I'm sorry we didn't see more Mary Chieffo as more Klingon-ish, going forward.
There's a whole nother series you could have.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm still pulling for Mary to show up in Strange New Worlds because she is that point in the timeline, clearly. So we will see. All right, but for right now, it's time
to. She'll show up with a smooth forehead, and they'll try to explain.
There was this virus, and never mind.
We do not speak of it with Outworlders.
Yeah. In 2020, there was this virus, and it caused our foreheads to smooth out.
Time to refill the dilithium chamber and warp on out of here. You can find me, Clinton, at Comedy Forecast, all one word with the number 4.com. And who speaks for you guys?
Go ahead, Greg.
All right. So you can find us at Technorama. You can go to search Google for Technorama Podcast, and you'll find us. If you search for Technorama, you'll find the Swiss Science Museum. But if you go below that, you'll find us also. Just stay in. So anyway, anywhere you go get your podcasts or go look for us, you can just search for Technorama Podcast, and you'll find us.
Excellent. All right. Time to hit the theme, boys. If you like the show, please be sure to tell a friend about it and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter at The Topic is Trek. Visit our Facebook page or visit thetopicistrek.com. Until next time, on behalf of Chuck, Craig, and myself, I'm Clinton, thanking you for listening. And as we always say here on The Topic is Trek, don't put on the red shirt. I mean it this time. Don't do it.
I think we should boldly get that out of here.
All right. Well, we're going to stop recording. Thank you to the live viewers for not only watching, but contributing. And we got one more message here from Valencia. Good night.
I'm not seeing the comments update. I was watching, but I was like, oh, they're not really talking.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry.
A couple of things going on here. All right. So we will see you in.
Oh, sorry.
You were on
No,
chat.
No, I had the comments up, but just now I switched to the other page, which is like banners, and switched back to comments. Now I see them all. So.
Okay, we're going to start the show over again because apparently, Craig could not see your comments. So.
No, we're not doing an hour and a half show yet.
All right.
Live long and prosper.
Thanks, everybody. Yep.
Thank you. Bye-bye.